Hey everyone, it's Savannah, and I got my business partner Jake here, and we're about to tell you about some myths and misconceptions about short-term rentals.
So the first myth is that short-term rentals only work in large markets.
Myth. Yeah, we both have short-term rentals in rural areas. Basically, all of our short-term rentals are in rural areas. And that's just because, there's always people that are traveling to areas just to see family. I don't know, sports tournaments. They're traveling from A to B and they need interim.
Yeah, layover stop.
And there isn't any competition, for the most part, not a lot of competition with traditional accommodations, like big hotels in the area. So people always need a place to stay, and we're not competing with hotels, so we're really offering a service in those rural areas.
And when you're in a rural area, try to identify what kind of draws or interest is around you, or are you in the middle of two populated areas? Trying to identify the kind of folks that might be passing through or passing by or stopping in will help you cater to the folks that are going to be using your properties.
Yeah, there's actually a lot more competition, of course, in bigger cities. And with Airbnb getting more and more popular, I think the listings are up 25% this year for listings on site, where, that's a lot of competition. Most of these places are in cities. So if you can kind of carve out your own niche in a rural area, you're going to ultimately more likely have a lot more bookings.
And if you can really jazz up the listing and get professional photography and have a little bit more of a design touch, you're probably going to stand out and stand apart from some of those rural listings because they don't feel the need to bring it up to that level. So just anything you can do to set yourself apart is going to be a big advantage when you're operating in some of those markets as well.
Something else we've heard is it's easy to just put your one-off vacation home on Airbnb when you're not using it, just to, make a little money while you're gone.
We'd say that's a myth. It can be a possible option for you, but if it's truly a vacation home that's outside of your local market and you don't have a team in place to make sure that that listing is being operated effectively and you've got a great cleaning staff, it can really occupy a lot of your time, both mentally and actually messaging and just trying to find resources if you don't have good boots on the ground already. So either you're paying 20-30% for a short-term rental manager out there and you're still having to manage the manager, make sure they do a good job for you, or you're managing it directly. And sometimes it's best to have some scale in the short-term rental space. If you're having to think about the Airbnb app and thinking about people messaging you all day, every day for one rental, it can feel like a lot for maybe not the most returns. So sometimes it can be the best option to throw your one-off short-term rental on Airbnb, but other times it can be a lot more challenging than folks really consider going into it.
Yeah, so if you're going to just have your vacation rental, your one-off vacation rental in some destination that you want to visit, it's going to be hard because you need a team in place. When you're not there, you need contractors, cleaners, a whole Rolodex of people that it's not just simple to just throw it on there unless you have a property manager. And in that case, the cash flow is really hard to get.
And again, too, just touching on the cleaner, I would say is the most critical part of your Airbnb operation. If you don't have a good cleaner that's notifying you of things that are broken or lost or missing, or someone that you can really rely on, if you have an Airbnb that's close by and your cleaner falls off the face of the earth, you can run over there in a scramble and make things happen and patch through for a week or two until you get someone else in place. But if this property is states away, you're going to be in a tough spot and you can lose months of cash flow because you're having to book an emergency flight and all this chaos in your life. So we just caution folks that are trying to buy vacation rentals all over the country, make sure you've got a good team in place, or make sure you have the resources to tackle those issues if they come up. All right, so another thing we hear folks say all the time is that short-term rentals are passive income.
And that is a myth, people.
I would say long-term rentals aren't even passive income.
Yeah, no, I'd say no real estate where you're having a human occupy your space is passive income because people are fickle and it's their homes and you want to provide good service. And if it's short-term rentals, they're maybe spending quite a bit of money to be on a vacation. And you just want to make sure no matter what, that everyone's having a good experience in your property. So it is not passive income. You are constantly replying to direct messages you get Yes, Airbnb does automate a lot of it for you. You can send automated messages, check-in instructions, check-out instructions, what have you. But there's always going to be direct messages of people just asking like where certain things are, how to operate things. So it's not always passive income, never passive income. You have to keep up with your listing and make sure it's always optimized, make sure it's always running efficiently and that your guests are happy.
And a big aspect of that too is just if things break. You know, in a traditional long-term rental, you might have some rapport built with your tenant and some grace there, and they may be more willing to work with you if your contractor's booked up for a few days. But, you know, if you have a toilet that breaks in your short-term rental and you've got guests checking in that afternoon, that's an emergency and you got to get that fixed right away. So there is definitely a higher level of infrastructure and support needed, or you need to be available more regularly for short-term rentals. We've, had a litany of things come up where you're scrambling because something broke, something's not working right, or even just something small like this should never happen, but let's say you ran out of toilet paper. That's a small thing that can happen in a short-term rental, or maybe you've got a guest that used up a whole pack in 3 days. So, there's things can happen that just don't happen in the long-term rental space. The internet goes out. That's something that's been a thorn in my side at times when you have someone that can't figure out how to reset the modem. So things like that, they eat up your time. So you just got to be aware that there's, an exponential increase in your time and the amount of issues that come up in short-term rentals. But generally, I'd say in our rural markets, we see 2.5 to 3 times gross income compared to long-term. But then again, you also have to consider the additional costs. So there's a lot to consider here.
Yeah. If you're willing to put in extra time and you enjoy it and it's up your alley, then like for me, I'd say short-term rentals are 100% worth it, but it's not for everyone. And you just need to do like a self-audit and figure out what is and isn't for you. Because for me, it's worth it for the extra cash flow, but maybe for someone else, it's not.
And that's like, it's almost your full-time job is operating your short-term rentals, right? If someone has a W-2 job, especially a high-demand W-2 job where you can't get on your phone in a moment's notice, that creates a lot of stress. So you need to be in a position where you know that you can take on some of these things. Thanks for checking out our video today, guys. Feel free to subscribe to Savannah's YouTube channel or just check us out on any of the social media platforms.
Yeah, you can find Jake at
The Broker Jake on Instagram, or just look me up, Jake Diatley, on Facebook or wherever else.
Yeah, and I'm at Investor Sam on Instagram. And thanks for checking in and then subscribe.